And finally, another celebration. So far, I have been talking about Jain, I talk about Chulalongkorn Day, I talk about Chakri Day, Kachin Day. They were all related to religions, Buddhism, and the monarchy. So far, all these activities help to create a relation between the nation, the Thai people as a nation, Buddhism as a religion of their inner self, and the king, the monarchy. But of course, as we already mentioned, in the year 1932, there was a coup d'etat who abolished the absolute monarchy and established a constitutional monarchy. Here again, we have a celebration. And this is something I invite you to think. Because, I mean, it's a tragedy, but it's a fact. Thailand and Argentina have different militaries and civil coup d'etats. We have different governments. But I want to stress specifically this one because this was the first. It was the first case in the case of Thai history, in the case of the Thai modern history, that we have coup d'etat. And it was this first case that we have a new celebration, Constitution Day. The new government were trying also to create a celebration, trying to add a new meaning. That now is important is the Constitution, democracy. This celebration, the Constitution Day, was established a few months ago after the coup d'etat. It was established, if you remember, in December of the year 1932, and the coup d'etat was in June of that same year. This is a picture of a gathering. If you can see behind, that's the statue of King Chulalongkorn I. I mean, actually, the events taking place during the coup and after the coup, they were trying to take the previous traditions of King Chulalongkorn statue of the royal palace and give them a new meaning and relate them to democracy. This is a question I open you to think about it. If this celebration is an attempt of inventing a new tradition in the year 1932 has success or not. Just a question for you to think about it. This is the, of course, I mean, this is a little bit way behind, my day, because I'm just thinking about the 19th century and early 20th century. This is the monument of democracy. This monument was created in the year 1938. It's almost 6 years after the coup d'etat. But I just want to mention it because it's related to Constitution Day. This is more or less about Thailand. When I think about, how the main features of the Thai identity, the people, Buddhism, and the monarchy, came about during the 19th century and the early 20th century. Of course, historians know that the main defender, the main propulsor of nationalism here in Thailand was King Ramoneda VI. He took a lot of measures trying to create a national identity. But I believe that he could not be able to do so if he hadn't had the history and the experience and the action taken by the other kings of the dynasty. I think he couldn't have so much success in relating Buddhism to monarchy, to the nation, without the measure and action taken, for instance, by King Rama IV in Bud, where he reformed Buddhism. I think he wouldn't be so successful in doing that without the influence of his father, King Chulalongkorn, in creating important events and trying to get a closer contact to the people. Now Argentina. Then again we will start with the religious holidays. Of course, most of you will know about Christmas. I mean, it's a religious commemoration about the birth of Jesus Christ. According to the Gregorian calendar in Christianity, we have different schools, we have different movements. Here, I mean, in the Catholic world, we usually respect the Gregorian tradition, and in this case for measuring time, but we have other type of traditions to measure time. According to this, the birth of Jesus Christ is the 25th of December. I mean, the 24th at night and the 25th. Easter, even though this is a personal opinion, probably in time you might think that Christmas is our most important Christmas celebration because of the festival we know. But for Christianity, the most important celebration is Easter. Not so much the birth of Jesus Christ, but his death and resurrection. This is for us the most important celebration in our calendar. Of course, I mean, Easter is, we consider it's a whole week. It's really complex to determine its date. It usually falls between the second part of March and the early part of April each year. We have some mixture of lunar calendar mixed with Jewish calendar, so it's quite difficult to establish the date. And then again, we can think that in some way similar to Luesak Day. It's a time for us of a great asceticism and great vigilance, trying to improve ourselves and try to cleanse ourselves for our wrongdoings and hopefully more. Then we have Lent. Of course, this is just a remark. This comparison is a broad comparison just for you to have an idea. Of course, it will take me not an hour, even a day, will take me a month to enter into theological, anthropological, devotional comparisons inside Christianity, inside Buddhism, between the two religions. So it's quite difficult. But in general, I want to show you the impact for people in general, for people in general, what's the people experience in comparison with the two religions. Very important, time is Lent. Usually it's the 6 weeks before Easter, and in some way it could be compared to Sasa, because it's a moment for Christians to purify themselves, to prepare for the Holy Week. It's a moment of great asceticism, not only for the clerics, for the religious persons, but also for lay people. It's not used to have great celebrations. In some cases, we don't eat meat, no have drinks. Cannibal, depending on the situation. In general, for us, for Argentina, the religious traditions comes from Spain. And if I say Spain, I mean Europe. Most of Christianity is not an autonomous religion for Argentina. Our native people, they have their own belief, but they almost disappear. Or were assimilated by Christianity thought and beliefs. This is just for you. This has nothing to do with this lecture, but just for you to know. Most of the Christian beliefs and tradition, they're also invented traditions. For instance, what we call, or we probably know about San Valentin Day, it was an ancient Roman tradition known as Lupercalia. It's the same date. For instance, Christmas Day, it usually was an ancient Mithraic tradition where we celebrate the Mithraic sun, the 25th of December. usually, well, no, Easter for us, it's quite related with Pesach for Judaism. So, I mean, even Christianity tend to take information or influence for other traditions, and they assimilate it and create something new. Given also some information, some part for Christianity also. As I mean, taking for others, that doesn't mean that it's not truth. It takes all tradition and gives them a new meaning. Carnival. Carnival also comes from Europe. It's an old tradition. Usually, sometimes some authors say it predates Christianity. And usually comes the first week of February before Lent. And this is quite a fun moment, tradition celebration. We quite have a lot of activities, games, dances, music, parties in the street. And here, then again, probably with different meanings, or probably in the case for us, lost in the meaning, but we usually have watch games. We usually have a lot, every kid in the street have water balloon thrown into each other, having water guns and playing along. Probably, the meaning of cleansing is not much related, but the actual fun moments and water games are related. Also, this tradition helped us to understand how different people tend to live together. When I talk about Buddhism in Thailand, of course, I talk about Buddhism in Thailand. But that also means that there are other people who believe in Buddhism who are in Thailand. For instance, the Chinese, the Laos, Myanmar, even from abroad. That they share the same religion could help them to get along with each other. Something similar happened with Argentina and some type of celebrations, specifically with Carnival. Even though the celebration came from Europe, the date, in some cases, tend to coincide with some traditional days for the native Indians from Argentina. Moreover, it was used by African slaves. So it was a huge celebration where everything was mixed. We have African elements, we have traditional native Indian elements from Argentina, we have Spanish, proper European elements, and even pre-Christian elements in Carnival. Sacred is a very interesting tradition, very interesting celebration. Also, Carnival Argentina has a very particular history. It is known that it was celebrated since the 17th century, but all along the years, it became a national holiday, and it stopped to be. Different governments tend to abolish it, and the other government tried to restitute it, because on the one hand it was a fun moment, period celebration, but at the same time it was a moment for a lot of criticism. As everything goes, people tend to misbehave, to do mischief. In some cases innocent mischief, in some other not so innocent. There were fights, there were critics to the government, there were parades, there were everything. So depending on the government, during the early 19th century it was a public holiday, later it was abolished, in the late 19th century it was restituted again, then it was abolished. In the last case, Carnival was abolished in the year 1976, in our last military government, and it was reconsidered again a national holiday a few years ago. The celebration continued, but it doesn't have the national importance. This is just a few photographs. These photographs is from the early 1920s. This is one of our main streets, Rivadavia. This is dances. And then we enter to, and this is, I'm just making it closer, with our civic traditions. Then again here, we know the dates when they were instituted, and we know the participation of the people. May Revolution. In May 25th of the year 210, what have we called the May Revolution? That actually is one of what we consider ourselves the birth of our nation and the establishment of our first patriotic government. I just want to make a statement for you to know. This celebration, we move the viceroyalty government in Rio de la Plata. But we tend to still acknowledge the King of Spain as our ruler. That's something that's going to change in our Independence Day. I just want to make you clear this because sometimes it gets confused which is our or not Independence Day. This makes consider the first time in our history that it's the first time in our history that we attempt to take matters in our own hands. Nevertheless, still, we acknowledge the King of Spain as our ruler. Back then in Europe, there are lots of issues going on. We have the Napoleonic War, the French Revolution. Back then, the King of Spain, Ferdinand, was moved, and Napoleon instituted his brother as a king. So there was a lot of mess going on. A year later, in the year 1811, the first patriotic government established the 25th of May as a holiday, as a celebration, as a national celebration, just 1 year after the original event. Probably something similar of what happened to the Chulalongkorn Day. I mean, King Ramoneda VI instituted Chulalongkorn Day a few years, 2 years after the death of his father. Here, we institute May the 25th after 1 year of the event that took place. Then again, this is, I mean, you cannot appreciate it in this picture or in this one. This is a paint from the year 1844. I mean, the May 25th celebration not only was an official celebration, where there was a lot of theatrical dramatization about republicanism. I mean, not only we have to celebrate, okay, we became independent, yeah, we became an autonomous government, but we try to teach, we try to show how we work, how with the idea of the republic, republicanism, how we teach them to the people. So there were dramatization where we have a leader paying respect to the government, to the people could participate in it. And of course there was a lot of games, activities, and this type of activities and celebrations is where we can appreciate, I don't have the time to tell you more, is where you can appreciate about the gaucho culture, Here is a lot of horse racing, playing La Sortija, this game we have that when we're riding a horse, we try to catch a ring in a post. There are lots of activities related with our livestock tradition. A long time, I mean, we're talking in the year 1811, and usually this is all along the first half of the 19th century. But after the second half, all these popular celebrations tend to disappear, tend to move away. I will just have the idea and we'll continue it afterwards. Then we have Independence Day. I mean, our independence is, the 9th of July of the year 1816. In this case, the official holiday, the official celebration was established almost 10 years after, in the year 1826. Then again, it was a public holiday, there was a lot of popular participation. Also, what is interesting about these two celebrations is what we call the Te Deum. I mean, For instance, as I already mentioned in the case of Thailand, you have the kachin, that the king presents respect to the monks, in this case specifically in Watarumba. In general, the expression is to express respect to all the monks in Thailand. In our case, our government, our leaders, politicians, in the 25th of May and the 9th of July, also goes to our main church. It's the Metropolitan Cathedral. And we have a small ceremony called the Te Deum. Usually we call it an hymn, it's an old hymn. It dates back from the 3rd to the 4th century. But it's a hymn where we thank, in this case, God for all the benefits and all the goodwill we have in our country. Then again, it's a way of thanking our leaders to our religious representative in Argentina. Usually, Te Deum is the main associated celebration that continues all along to these days in Argentina. The popular celebrations, all the fun-loving moment, merry-making situations, games, dances, all tend to move away. It's in other types of activities. It was usually in the late 19th century that it was required our government to appeal again to other people, because we are facing, I don't want to say a threat, but we are facing the danger of losing our identity because of the immigration influx of Italians and Spanish. So they try to recover. They try to recover these holidays, not the commemoration date, but the holiday itself, the celebration itself. But in the process, they have other thoughts on how to celebrate. If at the beginning of the 19th century, it was more like merry-making games, by the late part of the 19th century, it was more like a militaristic type of celebration. We have parades, we have military reviews, we have cannon salves, we try to remember our founding fathers, we try to remember our great battles. It was not so much about the merrymaking of public participation, but it was more like about remember our history, remember the facts of our nation. In this context, this I just mentioned, I was trying to find to the end of my lecture. If I talk about immigration, in the case of Thailand, Chulalongkorn Day and Chapri Day, they were established in the early part of the 20th century. Almost at the same time, you have a great influx of Chinese immigrants. So one of the ideas of King Ramoneda VI not only was to remember the Thai national identity, but to create an identity to distinguish and to incorporate the Chinese. In the case of Argentina, this recovery that our governments did in the late part of the 19th century, remember the main ideas of the May the 25th and July the 9th, was also facing the situation of the Italian and Spanish immigration to Argentina, because they were bringing their own tradition, they were bringing their own national holidays. So we are threatening of losing our main identity. And finally, San Martin Day. This is what we consider ourselves our founding father. The official commemoration of San Martin is August the 17th. But this is quite interesting. San Martin died the year 1850. He died in Europe. For Argentina government in general, it took us a lot of effort to bring his remains back to Argentina. It took us almost 30 years for San Martin to come back to this country. Back then, in the year 1880, our main church, the Metropolitan Cathedral, that is the same place that takes the Te Deum, gives a piece of land of the church to establish San Martin Mausoleum. This is the place where his remains are, in our main church. In some way is quite related with the establishment by King Rama VI of the Royal Chapel, close to the Royal Chapel Buddha, where people can go and pay their respect to all the kings of the Chap dynasty. We have the same. I mean, our founding father, place of peace, rest in our main church is related to our main place of which we live. But you could think, okay, he died in the year 1850. Probably you can think, okay, when he got back to Argentina in the year 1880, the government would establish a national holiday. No. It was in the year 1933, almost 80 years after the death of San Martin, that his death was considered a national holiday. It was considered a national holiday. Also, I mean, what is quite interesting about San Martin, it's quite interesting to myself to compare not only his life, his achievement to King Chulalongkorn. Even though, I mean, of course, King Chulalongkorn is a king, San Martin is a military leader, but both of them are considered our founding fathers, or the father of the nation, because they fought for our independence, facing the threat of foreign powers. They tried to defend the core of Thai identity for King Chulalongkorn, Argentinian identity for San Martin, our main territory, our core territory. But also, it's quite interesting in these two persons, their death. We know that for the establishment, for the creation of the equestrian statue of King Chulalongkorn, there was a fundraising organized by the government, but where a lot of people participated. I mean, the fundraising activity was to create a commemoration for King Chulalongkorn while he was living. Something similar happened with San Martin. The process of transferring him from Europe to Argentina, and even the creation of the mausoleum, the national government encouraged a fundraising activity where a lot of people participate. The fundraising activity where a lot of people participate in it, trying to have a place, an honest place for our founding father. So, well, I did on this with them. I think I tried, this is, of course, a comparison, general comparison, I don't have too much time in an hour, but for you to know how we can compare and have some similar aspect in common in our experience, in our history, that we, even though we are far away in distance, we are far away, we have different beliefs, we have different states, form of government, we can understand each other, because we pass for similar experiences and events, and we respond to them in a similar way. Not identical, but in a similar way. That this is a basis from where we can start talking each other, try to understand each other, and hopefully, I think it's a reality, to become friends as a people, as a nation. Thank you very much.